Hi everyone, I'm Rebecca Virginia, and today I'm going to share with you my last DIY video of 2023. We're going to be making some different winter decor, particularly snowman decor. This way you have something festive to put up after the holiday season. Through those cold months of January and February, I take down all of my Christmas items, but I still like to have something up that cheers me up a little bit during those more dreary months, so we're going to do some snowman decor. Starting off, I picked up this jar from the Dollar Tree way back in the summertime. That's why you can see the little seashell on there. I took off the holder that was around this. I think it was meant to have a tea light put in it. And I'm going to be painting it white, but only a very thin layer. I want to be able to put a electronic tea light in there and kind of have it glow later. So I don't want a super opaque layer of paint. The jar is going to be our snowman head, so for the hat, this hat ornament fit absolutely perfectly. Of course, I picked it up from the Dollar Tree. We're going to be adding that on a little bit later, but before I do, I wanted to move on to my scarf. I had some of this burlap ribbon. I believe I received it on a present last year. Comment down below if you also save all of the ribbons from your Christmas presents. I tried to with wrapping paper, but that's a little bit harder to keep. The bows are a little bit easier. So I just wrapped the ribbon around there and tied it off before hot gluing down the ornament hat. Lastly, we have to finish our snowman by giving him some black button eyes and a coal mouth. I like to use my daughter tool. You can pick one up at the Dollar Tree. It just works a lot better and it's easier to control than a paintbrush, especially for something as detailed as the carrot nose. It really just helps having this daughter tool. Also, I did not include it in the pictures and video at the end of the craft because it was still light outside, but I did put an LED tea light under my snowman and I think it looked so magical and really nice. So I actually have him up on my mantle right now with the tea light programmed and I really love it. It gives a nice magical snowman look to the mantle. Next up is my personal favorite craft that I made in today's video. They are some sock snowmen and I think they are so darn cute. You can put them anywhere. I kind of dressed them up in this lantern that I actually made, I believe, last year. I'll leave it linked above, and put in some greenery picks from the Dollar Tree. I think they're so cute. I might end up putting them in my kitchen. I kind of have a hot cocoa bar going on, so I think they'd be super cute in that too. I'm using a sock from the Dollar Tree and some paper straws. You're going to put the paper straw inside of the sock, and I did cut off a little bit of the excess, and I'll continue to cut off a little bit more. This was a great find from the Crafter's Square section. It is some filling, and I've never seen this at my Dollar Tree before, so I was pretty excited. And first, I'm just going to fill up the top, which is going to be the head of our snowman, and then I took the paper straw and stuck that in. You could have put it in, even added a little bit of hot glue at the top, and then added the filling. Really, you can do it whichever way that you like, whatever is easiest for you. I took an elastic hair tie once I had the head filled up as much as I liked and popped that over the sock and straw. And then I'm going ahead and adding some more filling, creating the body. Kind of looks like a ghost on a stick at first, and then once you start adding more of the filling, you can really start to see the snowman's body taking shape. I took another hair elastic and popped that underneath the body of our snowman, and now it kind of looks like he has a dress or a little tail. So I went in with my scissors and trimmed off all of that excess so that all we have is the snowman head and body. I didn't want my snowman to be lonely, so I had to make him a friend, and I'm doing the exact same process, placing the sock on my paper straw, adding in some filling, and then a clear elastic or hair tie. I did find these in the hair section of Dollar Tree, and then adding some more filling in. You can make it as full as you would like, depending on what you want your snowman to look like, and placed another hair tie over that, and then trimmed off all of that excess sock that we had. A snowman needs his accessories. I decided to go with a hat and scarf, actually from this snowman pick that I got in a 2-pack at the Dollar Tree. I had never used them, so figured I would kind of start taking it apart and adding it to my sock snowman. So I hot glued the hat on and the little scarf on one of them. Then for the other one, I wanted to make some earmuffs and of course a scarf as well. For the earmuffs, I made some faux marshmallows out of Crayola clay. I love using clay in lots of different projects. I'll pop up a couple of pictures of how I used it last year. So I placed the faux marshmallows on either side of the snowman's head, and then I wound some gold floral wire around to look like, you know, the part that's holding the earmuffs together, and I attached that with some hot glue. But I realized that the faux marshmallows were making my snowman look like an alien, and they were a little bit too big and jutting out from his head. So I did go in and trim those down with a pair of scissors. You'll see me use this daughter tool on pretty much every DIY in today's video. This is my favorite for detailing something like faces on a snowman. It is a little bit more difficult when you're dealing with fabric or even some plastic wrap, which you'll see in a later DIY in this video. But for the most part, because the socks were stretched pretty far because of the filling inside, it wasn't too difficult. So I just made the eyes and the smiles and then went in for the noses. If you're curious, the noses, I use the color Pumpkin by Waverly Chalk Paint. That's my favorite because you don't need to go in with very many layers. For the scarf on our second snowman, I'm combining two different types of ribbon from the Dollar Tree. I have this red gingham style ribbon, which kind of reminds me of like a kitchen or maybe an apron, but I wanted something a little extra. So I had some red pom-pom garland, also picked up from the Dollar Tree, of course. So I added a layer of that on the snowman before wrapping it around and hot gluing it onto his body. This would look great tucked into a Christmas plant, or you can do like me and pop them in your kitchen. They're in a jar with some candy cane cinnamon sticks and some marshmallow stirrers that I picked up from Target this year. So I'm really loving them in my kitchen. Next, we're going to be using the foam dice from the Dollar Tree, one of my favorite supplies to use for all sorts of different crafts, and making a stacked snowman. I thought the dice perfectly, looked like snowballs, so it would be a great item to use. I did use these last time for a 4th of July DIY. I'll pop that up on the screen, and I love reusing DIY items that I already have. It is great so that you don't have to go out and constantly be rebuying. I love repurposing them for different holidays. I've had these dice for about 2 years, so it was time to rotate them back into my crafting stash. I hot glued all 3 of them on top of one another and then took another one of these hat ornaments from the Dollar Tree. I'm telling you, these work for so many great different DIYs. I think it would even be cute as a Santa hat, but it's absolute perfection for a snowman hat. I'm taking the same brown kind of burlap ribbon that I used in the first DIY and wrapping this around as his scarf. I have got to tell you guys, I have missed crafting so much. I recently got married in late November, as I know a lot of you guys know, and I was doing so many wedding DIYs, which were fun, but kind of had a little bit of pressure on them because I did have a time crunch. I'm going to be sharing a video in January showing you all of the different items that I DIY'd. I'm super excited to share that with you. I'll give you a little sneak peek of one of the wedding reels I put up on Instagram. If you're not following me, follow RebeccaVirginiaDIY on Instagram. I post there almost daily, so you can always stay caught up with me. I added some embellishments to the scarf on my snowman, and then, of course, went in with that daughter tool again to add the face and the buttons on my snowman. This is something I'm definitely going to have up in those winter months. There is nothing quite like a smiling snowman to make those really long January and cold February months a little bit better. Next up is a little bit of a twist on the first DIY that we did. Instead of a small jar from the Dollar Tree, I am using a mason jar. We're just going to be flipping it upside down and adding some embellishments to transform it into a snowman. So this jar I actually used for my bridal shower. I will link above my bridal shower DIY video. If you haven't checked it out yet, you'll see exactly how these jars were used. But we're going to transform it using, of course, a sock again. I feel like that is kind of a theme in a couple of the DIYs in today's video. I cut off a good portion of the sock and I'm using where your toes would go. I'm not sure what that's called in the sock. The foot part of the sock, not the part that goes around your ankle. Not sure. So once I place that over the bottom of the mason jar, because remember we flipped the mason jar over, I am going to take some of this yarn and just tie it at the end. And before I move in, eventually I'm going to be adding a bell, but I was waiting for my hot glue gun to heat up. So of course I like to dirty up my snowman, especially using some mason jars. I just think that's a very rustic item to use when crafting. So I wanted to add a little bit of the rustic vibe, and I did that by dry brushing a bit of brown paint all over my mason jar and the sock hat. To embellish the hat, I made a little holly berry kind of sprig out of some of the holly berries you can get at the Dollar Tree and some of the greenery picks. Then to move on to our snowman's scarf, this ribbon was a little bit too thick, and again, I wanted it to be a little bit more rustic, a little bit more disheveled looking, so I cut off the two wired ends of the ribbon, and that way it started to fray, and I really liked that look. Went with the whole rustic theme, and I just used a little bit of hot glue to hot glue that around the bottom of our mason jar. It can be a tiny bit difficult just because the mason jar does get more narrow the further down you go. That's why I decided to use hot glue rather than a glue stick. The final step is adding on our snowman's face. Just like in the first DIY of today's video, you can always add in an LED tea light. That way this would really light up at night. I didn't add too much of the white paint on this jar, so it would still be able to show a little bit of that light coming through. Next up is a little bit of a silly one, but it's really easy to do. And if you decorate your bathrooms for the holidays, then this would make an absolutely perfect addition. I even showed you a little bit of video footage of it in mine, so you can see what it would look like. It's super easy. You're just gonna need a toilet paper roll, and we're gonna be wrapping it in this clear wrapping paper. You guys know what it is. It's the plastic wrap from Dollar Tree. You get it where the wrapping paper is. That's what I meant. And we're completely covering the toilet paper roll, so don't worry. After the season is over, you can actually use this, which is nice because I've seen on Pinterest some people actually paint the toilet paper roll, and you know, that's just wasting toilet paper to me. So we're not gonna do that. Don't worry, you'll still be able to use this. I pulled it all up at the top, kind of like we're wrapping a present, and tied it with some of this white yarn, and then just trimmed down any of the cellophane that was sticking up too much. Now this part was a little bit tricky just because when we pulled together the clear wrap at the top of our snowman, it did crease a little bit. So while I was painting, I just worked in different layers, adding down a little bit of black paint, waiting for it to dry before going in and really adding in more. That way I didn't have to worry about the paint sliding off of the clear wrap, and I was able to layer up our smiling snowman face. The last DIY is actually one from one of my very first videos that I made all the way back in 2020. It didn't get too many views, so I wanted to put it in this video now that I have a bunch of new subscribers. Thank you, by the way. And if you aren't subscribed, please make sure to subscribe down below and give my channel a thumbs up. It helps so much, so please hit that thumbs up button. This is going to be our super easy snowman candle. I'm using one of the tall candles from the Dollar Tree. I'm not using my daughter tool in this video because I hadn't discovered it yet at the Dollar Tree. So back in the day, I like to use Q-tips, and you know what? It still works, so this is always a good tip. I used the end of a pen. I dipped it in a little bit of paint, and that gave me the really tiny dots. Again, in the days before I had that daughter tool, I really had to improvise with what I used. This piece of scrap fleece is what I used as the scarf, tied that around, and I did add a little bit of fringe with my scissors before adding some embellishments. I always have loved those garland picks that you can get from the Dollar Tree. Added in some berries, and to really finish everything off, added some whites to the eyes and one of these glittery snowflake stickers from the Dollar Tree, because when it's Christmas time, you can never go wrong with glitter. Thank you all so much for watching and supporting me this year. I cannot wait to come up with tons of new crafts for us to enjoy in 2024. See you next year. Thanks for watching. Keep searching, keep creating.